Well, hello, photographers. This is kind of a new thing for Mr. Morelli and I to be doing something live on YouTube. It's one of those things where, if a tree falls in the forest and no one hears it, did it actually fall? If no one's on the YouTube channel when we do the YouTube live, did it really happen? I guess, there's a possibility, Tom, that only you and I will ever know that this actually happened. Although it'll most likely, if it turns out halfway okay, tech wise, it'll end up for people to watch on the channel. Tom, how are you, man? Don't tease us, man. Yeah, that's wondering why my father is not on here with us. Well, my dad has finally decided that it was time for him to retire and just take some time to travel and spend time with my mom. He is in wonderful health, so there's no health worries there, no panic there. But, he's in his I think he'd be okay with me. He's in his mid 70s, I mean, he's ready to take it a little easy and he's man, has he earned it. So they are actually just getting ready to go on a trip leaving on Monday. And so that's great, but he wants me to send his love to all of you. And Tom and I just decided, you know what, we're going to just kind of get together periodically on this YouTube channel where we've shared a lot of our previous secrets from the online vault that we have now made public to everyone to have access to. Not all of the videos from the online vault are on there, but some of our very, very best. So be sure to check those out if you haven't already. But we might be popping on here periodically just to say hi. Uh-oh. Scott Rogers says Tom's mic is muted. Uh-oh. Okay. That's very strange because I'm hearing you and it's registering on the software. All right. Well, thank you, Scott. Scott, are you're still not hearing Tom at all? I'm waiting to hear back from Scott, and it looks like we might have one other person on here. If you would type in and just let us know if you can hear both of us as well, that would. Don't know why that. Nothing for us. Scott says. Okay, but you can hear me, Scott. That's very weird, very strange. Let me just double check something here. Ah, you know what? This might be why. Let's try this. Go ahead, Tom. Go ahead and talk again, please.
Hi, does my voice sound silly? Oh, wait, wrong button. Hi, Scott.
All right, Scott, did that fix it? that might that might have explained why I could hear it, but the stream couldn't. Todd is loud and clear, says Scott. I know there's a little bit of a delay between when I ask the question and when the comment comes through. So, Scott, just let us know if you can hear Tom. So, Tom, what is it that you're looking most forward to in doing these periodic YouTube lives? Ah, yes, he says yes, he can hear you.
All right, Scott. Thank you, my man. You get a box of chocolates. He's gonna mail them to you in about a week. They'll show up melted. And Todd always puts his finger into the ones that have jelly and cherries in them because he doesn't like them. So you'll get those too. Anyway, boy, it's such a wide open format here, but I'm hoping for us to mix both what's going on real time in the real rubber meets the road photography business, which I am in, still photographing high school seniors and babies and families and some business portraits. Don't do weddings anymore, but I did over almost 1,000 weddings. So I'm glad to discuss those if people have questions about those, because a lot of the rules and ideas still apply. But, we always were a marketing based format, because without clients, it doesn't matter how good you are. And the more clients you have, the better you get because you get more practice, so to speak. So I hope we can mix some technique, because people do ask sometimes about Photoshop or lighting or posing or whatever. Glad to talk about that stuff, but also how to currently in this market where it seems like, as my joke is, you could throw a dead cat even in my neighborhood and hit a photographer, but the cat hates that. So I don't do that. I don't
The
recommend that.
photographers love it.
Leave the cat alone. But yeah, the dog thinks it's hilarious. So, how do you cut through the sound and the noise that's going on right now? Where, if you ever noticed on Facebook, somebody will say, "Hey, I'm looking for a photographer for whatever it is," and 50 people will chime in, and they have all different names. And it's like, how do you pick? How do you pick out of those 50? So you can't rely on just word of mouth, which is what that is. You've got to talk about the methods that we love to talk about all these years, of how to keep the phone ringing and how to keep the appointment book calendar online or book full, because nothing will take the fun out of photography like being broke or not busy. So I guess those are my hopes, is both some of the technical stuff and the marketing, just like we've always done, but also being a little more interactive. If people want to ask questions real time, glad to do that too.
Yeah, I love that. That's what I'm hoping this will be too. Is it allows us to get on impromptu, do something. Hey, if something's kind of crazy going on, and we're going to talk a little bit about some of the crazy that's going on right now, because I want to get Tom's input on some of the naughty T word, the tariffs,
It's like
and
riding a roller coaster.
it's riding a roller coaster, but you're not sure if the lap belt is safely down.
Sometimes it feels like the roller coaster is upside down. You're hanging onto the little bar. I guess I had this thought. Sorry to interrupt you, Todd. Then you
Nope,
continue on.
that's
But
right.
I've my mind's like Swiss cheese sometimes. I had this thought today before we went on, because of the way the world is, and it's that I've gone through, and your dad always talks so much about this, going through multiple recessions and even depressions over the last 45 years. Don't ride the daily wave of news. Chuck's advice always was, get up in the morning, do your PTS time, don't turn on the news, don't live or die by, oh my gosh, in this case, stock market's up, oh, it's down, oh, it's up, oh, it's up. You drive yourself nuts. Okay. So in your case, make your plans, know your marketing, know how you want to run your business, and stay on that steady course. And to H, with what else is going on, I know it can affect you in ways, but mentally try to ride it out so that you're good as a business person, as someone that's fun to work with, and really honestly with your family too. If you're always grumpy with your family because you don't like the news, they're going to grow up and move away and say he was a grump or she was a grump. So I had to put that in there, is don't ride that daily roller coaster. As best you can, try to keep your business on a straight, level, narrow, and eventually whatever works out, you'll come out better for it.
Yeah, it's and so let's talk about that. Let's dive into a little bit of that roller coaster, and let's talk about how scared, worried, trepidatious photographers may be, and whether they should be, with all that's going on with just the economy. That's all we're gonna just approach it from that side right now, because I think that's a thing that's going to be on a lot of people's minds. It's certainly all over the news. It's out there. So the tariffs that are going on with this quote unquote tariff war, if you will, this back and forth, and now as of today, the recording of this, it has been paused for 90 days. The tariffs, with the exception of China. But this roller coaster has been just wreaking havoc with, more than anything else right now, the only thing it's really affected so far is the stock market. Because we're not seeing, and probably are not going to see for a little while yet, the ramifications of the tariffs on what we do on a day-to-day basis. Groceries will be the first hit, gasoline, maybe car parts, things like that, automobiles. I mean, I know people that are literally buying a car right now because they fear what cars are going to cost going forward. But what I want to talk about is specifically high-end professional portrait and wedding photographers. how worried should they be by this as far as A, how it's going to impact their business from a getting materials, are photographers' costs going to go up because of this? And then also from a standpoint of their clients, whether it's going to, how much we feel it's going to impact their clients going forward if, say, the next 6 months to a year of this tariff roller coaster continues to be as volatile as it's been over the last few weeks. So, Tom, we didn't prepare anything going into this. You had no idea what I was going to bring up. But I kind of want to ask you, what are your opinions, first of all, on how it's going to affect photographers' bottom line as far as their costs to do business?
Well, one of the best piece of advice that your dad ever gave me was every January 1st and every July 1st, Rose Bowl parade and fireworks time, to raise your prices by at least five. I always went 10%. He said, if you're feeling daring, go 15 or 20%. That adds up to quite a bit for not more work. So that has really helped stay ahead of inflation. And we went through quite an inflationary period over the last 4 years, up or down. Again, this is not about politics or whose fault is what. This is totally just dealing with the facts. So when it was 9%, things were shooting up. The fact that I had raised my prices 10%, 10% twice a year kept me a little bit ahead of that curve. Not as much as I would have, but boy, I didn't fall behind. So I think that's a big piece of advice. Now, also what your fees are. I'll just give you one example. I use H&H Color Lab. Okay, there's a lot of good ones, so I'm not telling you to run out and use them. If you got a good lab you love, use them. But let's use an 8x10 as an example. The cost of an 8x10 versus what I charge for it, if they doubled their price on what they're charging me for an 8x10, which they're not going to, I'd still make a really good profit. Okay. Because now, if you're charging $10, I'll just throw a number for an 8x10, and for a mounted nice 8x10, they're charging you $6 and you're making four, and suddenly they go up to 12, rut roll. So those with lower end prices, if they even do prints at all, which some aren't, if you're not charging adequate fees, then them raising, but I'm using dramatic. If they doubled the price of the product, I don't think that's going to happen. It may be 10%, maybe 20%, cost of paper, the cost of albums. If you do albums, the cost of frames, wherever they come from. That's mine is more a preemptive, proactive way of, if they go up, it's not going to hurt as much as if you're a really low end beginning photographer and your fees are really low. It could eat right into that immediately.
Yeah, that's a great point, Tom. Again, if your prices are high enough, these bumps in the road, are not going to affect you. Now, you could decide, hey, well, I'm just going to do what everyone else is going to do, and I'm just going to raise my prices to compensate for whatever the tariffs are doing to the supply chain for the different labs that I'm using, or the different album suppliers and things like that. I would not recommend doing that. You shouldn't have to do that if you are following, again, that rule of raising your prices twice a year, 10 to 20% anyway. Then July 4th is coming up soon, and you're just going to raise your prices a bit then anyway. What we want to try to do is get our businesses to always be at a point where we don't have to be reactionary. That if something in our business model changes, usually no fault of our own by outside forces, that we don't go into panic mode and we don't have to change the way that we do everything. That's why our system is designed the way it's designed, is to combat that. So the prices are a great example of that. Your prices should be set so that these kind of things don't happen. When it comes to your marketing, that's another thing, is if anything changes in the way we can market our business. We don't want to go, well, I just lost my one way of marketing myself and now no one's going to hear about me, so I'm going to have to shut down. That's why we always say you never want to have just one leg to your marketing table. You always want to have multiple legs on that table, because that's what makes a table nice and sturdy. So it doesn't just tip over if you lose one of the one or two things that you typically do. Social media can be very volatile. with the way things are going right now, I mean, we don't, some social media things could like shut down. You never know. So you don't want to have all your eggs in one basket there as well. Now, Tom, and a quick hi to Shirley. Shirley is on with us. Hey there, Shirley. Was hoping you'd be on. Shirley, hopefully we sound okay and look okay to you. I mean,
I don't
this
know
is what
about
you
look,
get.
but
You're
sound.
right. I mean, these cameras don't do magic, but hopefully you can see and hear us all right. We appreciate having you here and Scott as well. But now, when it comes to the labs, I don't know how much of the stuff that the labs are doing to run their business on a day-to-day basis comes from overseas. I mean, let's cut the albums out for a moment, or what we
Right.
like to call volumes. But let's cut the albums out and talk strictly wall portraiture. Well, then it comes down to, the canvas, the backing that they're using. It comes down to the chemicals and so forth that they're using, the machinery and the machinery parts to do the printing. Some software things here and there, but my guess is I don't know if I don't think tariffs would affect software. I don't know how that would work. If, say, a software is manufactured or created in Japan or China, I don't know. But Tom, do you have any idea how many things from labs might be impacted by the tariff wars if they stick?
You touched upon one of the big components, of course, is paper-based products, whether it's the mount board, the photographic paper itself, whether it's regular that's developed in chemicals or inkjet printed, whichever style you select. Uh, I live in Maine, and Maine always has been big for paper products. But as the digital age came and magazines went away, a lot of the mills in Maine went away. A lot of that industry dried up and went away because there wasn't the demand for paper. So I'm not sure if most of the paper is coming from overseas now, or if it's still produced somewhere in the United States. I know there are some mills in the United States, but Georgia Pacific and all these other names. So I don't know if the labs are depending on those out of country suppliers might turn and say, well, we got to pay a little bit more. But if we buy from within the U.S., we'll have a continuous supply. So that's where I see the biggest effect is the paper product based stuff. As you mentioned, chemistry. I have no idea where the chemistry and the inkjet ink comes from. I suspect it might be out of country, but I'm not sure. So because I don't do that lab stuff anymore, I let my lab do all that for me. But again, I even if the tariff on paper and chemicals goes up 10, 15, 20%, spread out over the number of clients that they have at their in the lab and their printing facility, I would think you might see 10 or 20%. So the 8x10 you're paying $6 for might be $7 or $8. Not comfortable, it doesn't make me feel good. I'd rather have that money, but I can compensate by what my fees are, and no one would even notice. So I think that's probably the area. As far as software goes, again, it's developed all over the place. I don't know what the method is for figuring out tariffs on software, but Adobe. I've got a subscription, Lightroom and Photoshop I pay every month. I don't know if it's going to affect that or not. I think that's an American-based company, so I'm not sure.
Yeah, and what I tend to think, I don't know, this may just be me being a negative Nelly. I don't know, but I tend to think, when stuff like this happens, and again, we don't know what the wide-ranging effects yet are going to be. The 90-day thing has, put a lot of things at ease and brought the stock market back up, but anything could change tomorrow. You never know. But I tend to think that when companies see an opportunity to raise their prices and blame it on something else,
Yeah,
a lot of companies do that. So, if you're worried, okay, if you're worried, and again, if your prices are set the way they should be, you shouldn't be too worried. You can absorb some of that extra, cost. That's fine, and still be making a very healthy profit. But call your lab and just ask them, hey, I'm sure you're getting a lot of questions. I'm wondering what's going to happen. Let's say the worst happens and tariffs stick and blah, blah, blah. What's going to happen to your prices? And hear it from them, and maybe talk to a couple of labs. Now, Scott typed in the comments and said H&H and Miller's are fantastic. And they are. They really are. And I think you could call them, you could ask them, or just kind of wait and see what happens. But again, if you're doing business the right way, it shouldn't affect you in a huge way. Now let's talk about the other side of that. Anyone remember Burrell? Says Scott. Oh, I remember Burrell very well.
Yep. Yep.
Burrell
North American
Color,
Photo.
North American Photo. That's
I go
right.
way back to Mizell in Georgia.
Yeah, and Burrell and North American, I think they were sponsors of our seminar tours
Yeah.
for many
Yeah.
years.
So I used them all.
Yeah, yep, we've used them all. That's right. Now, in preparation too, Scott and Shirley and anyone else that's on here live with us, if you have a question for myself or for Tom, type it in the comments and we'll get that answered before we wrap up here. We'll be going probably another 20 minutes or so, providing that Google Meet doesn't kick us out. It shouldn't, because there's only two of us, so I think we should be fine. But because we're not paying for the expense of Google Meet, we're cheapskates here, because we're just trying this for the first time.
We learned from Cheap Chuck.
We learned from Cheap Chuck. That's right. That's one of the best things that I've taken from him. I think he'd prefer Frugal Chuck, but it doesn't have the ring.
Yeah,
it's
yeah.
like it just
Frugal Fred. If
Frugal
his name
Chuck
was Fred, it would be okay.
Right, Frugal Fred would work. Now let's talk about the more important side of this: is how do we feel it's going to impact our clients and their having of discretionary funds to invest in something that is so wonderfully emotionally and financially luxurious as high-end portrait photography and wedding photography. How do we feel it's going to impact them? I'll go first on this one, Tom, and then have you chime in as well. I'm going strictly by what we've seen in recessions past and what we've seen when other major challenging things like, it was only a few years ago that we went through the pandemic. And, during the pandemic, everything shut down. But it was what happened as soon as people could sort of start getting back into things and what we saw. So what my feeling is on this is most likely your potential clients, again, if you are a mid to high priced, low volume studio going for the higher end clientele, your clientele is most likely not going to be all that affected by this in the short term. I mean, if the tariff stuff were to go on for years and years, well, then, we're talking recession, we're talking possible depression, we're talking, a lot of other stuff depending on how all that goes. But in the near future, over the next 6 months, year, whatever, if the tariffs do continue, it shouldn't, in my opinion, affect your target market that much because they already have savings, they have discretionary funds, and so forth. Your competition will still be, in my opinion, more about what are the other things that they could invest or spend their discretionary money on rather than your photography services, taking vacations, buying a new car. Maybe that would help because if cars are more expensive and your prices, you haven't gone up hugely because of tariffs or anything, then maybe they're going to be more likely to want to get a portrait. So again, if your marketing is going after the right target audience, if your prices are set to establish to your market that you are high end, that you are expensive but worth it, then I don't think a whole lot is going to change. In fact, I think you could see a lot of kind of what similarly happened with the pandemic for different reasons, is that people become more and more aware of what's important to them in their life, and that is their family. And so having a family portrait created becomes of more and more importance. I don't know, Tom, what do you think?
Yeah. Well, first of all, good reference to the pandemic because we were closed for not quite a year, about 9.5 months by law here in the state of Maine during the COVID shutdown. And that was fun. But luckily, because business had been strong enough prior years that I was able to survive that without any trouble. Uh, but I also noticed that during that time, people began the habit of staycations, meaning that rather than spending $7,000 for the whole family to go to Disney, which I love Disney, but rather than go there, they kind of stayed around here and they had some extra discretionary income because most of them were still working or had savings. And so they were fixing up their homes. They were doing new blinds. They were painting. And often they would go, that dusty family portrait in the corner is 10 years old. The kids are growing up. So people were turning to me going, "Are you still doing these?" And so we set them up a little bit in the future once I could open, but it increased business in that way rather than decreased business, but I was able to survive it. As far as currently, I am finding that most of the high-end clients that I have that are not worried about the discretionary income have real estate, lots of real estate, which isn't changing no matter what the market does. Their investment in their camps or their cottages or their homes or their business buildings is actually increasing. Also, they're not riding that daily wave. They let somebody else invest their money, so they're not opening up a 401k every day, going, "Oh no, what is it today?" They're letting it ride because they've seen a upward trend over decades if they've had it that long. And also, a lot of their businesses, a lot of them are small business owners, self-employed that have real successful businesses. The ones that I work with are their doctors or attorneys, people that are a bit more immune to the daily ups and downs. If bread is, $5 a loaf or $8 a loaf, yeah, it stinks, but they're not as worried about it. So the more you move up into that market, the more insulated I think you are from people who are uh, worried about the daily costs. Because I've had a few times over the years when I first started out in business, I had some real lower, didn't know what I was doing. So I was just doing these real cheap deals and people were affected like $29. I don't know. Would you do it for 25? And I did. Was hungry and needed the money. Then I met Chuck Lewis and all things changed. But anyway, so that's kind of what I'm finding is that more insulated the higher you go in your clientele.
Yeah, for sure, for sure. And that's not to minimize, because I want to be very clear here too that our target market is not the ultra wealthy.
Right.
So I don't want anyone to take from this, oh well, yeah, I mean you're looking for the billionaires, the millionaires, and that is not our target market. Our target market and who we tend to appeal to the most are the middle class, upper middle class, in that area. They have discretionary dollars. They appreciate what it is we do. They value what we do, and they love their family. They love celebrating their family, and that goes for whether you do family photography or not, because that includes children. That's family. That includes weddings. My goodness, that's family, right? That includes basically any type graduating seniors. That's their family, right? So when I say that, it doesn't just apply to family photography, but because of that, this is still going to very much have value. And and what I thought about, Tom, I don't know. That's what I love about what we're doing here is it's not we're not prepping a ton of stuff ahead of time. We're kind of going with the flow, and this is kind of the way I process things when I'm working on marketing and creating messages to send out about our photography. Is I wonder if it would even be beneficial to do a no price increase because of tariffs, or some
Yeah.
sort of a, campaign like just on social media, hey, tariffs got you worried? Don't worry, Tom Morelli Photography or Charles Lewis Photography, we're not raising our prices,
Now, see,
we'll absorb anything that happens.
being the kind of goofy guy that I am to love to play with marketing, and I'm not saying I'm doing this, but I could do a mock up, with AI, particularly now. So I look like a sheriff. And I could say, the tariff sheriff is in town and he's
See?
going to take care of you. Don't worry about it. We'll protect you from the tariff. And here's what we're going to do, with family portraits or whatever. I'm just
The
saying,
tariff sheriff. I love
yeah,
it. I love it. Yeah, see that, and
draw a
that's
part.
That's why we're lucky to have Tom on here, because that's the way he thinks. And for anyone who thinks, for anyone watching this, either live or the recording afterward, thinks, oh man, that's corny. I'm not going to market that way. That's corny. What do you have to say to that, Tom?
Well, the type of people that I like to work with kind of like corny stuff because we're trying to, not everyone, and of course, you don't act goofy when you're working with someone and you get the impression they're a little more, you sort of mirror them. So you don't want to be inappropriate with people. But most of the people that are attracted to those kind of marketing things that I do find it kind of fun, and they say this, they when they meet me they're like, I feel like I kind of already know you because those dad jokes or whatever was going on in whatever marketing, you have a personality. You're trying to convey from a two-dimensional frame, the screen or off the computer screen or whatever, a 3D effect in terms of personality. Like it's not just some picture of a guy. I actually feel like I could know this guy, and he's kind of fun because a lot of people look at having portraits done as a bit of a job, a negative. Oh man, I gotta go have my whatever done, but I really should do it. The kids are growing up, and if they think somebody's going to help them through that and be entertaining at the same time and have a little fun, plus you got to stick out. Everybody posts pretty photographs and says, call me, I'm cheap, I'm good, and I'm fast. And look at this nice photograph. And those aren't necessarily the clients that you want to work with in the long run to keep your business financially healthy. So, yeah, is it your personality? No, you to thine own self be true. If you don't feel comfortable, I'm not saying, although I think I might experiment this, Todd. I
I
think I
see
need
the
a
wheels
raise.
turning there, Tom. I see them.
And I'm going to get a little badge, at the children's clothing store or the kids' toy store with a little hat with a chin strap. Oh man, and a cap gun. I mean, come on, howdy
And see,
partner.
that is just a natural for social media.
Yeah,
That is we're not talking doing some sort of a brochure or a flyer that you say.
no.
Although you could test that, but no, this is the natural for going out on Facebook to your
And if
Facebook.
somebody hates it, if you start getting a lot of negative comments, doink, you just take it off.
Yeah, yeah.
But
Or you comment on it. You say, "Hey, be careful what you say. The tariff sheriff might come visit you."
that's right. I'm going to give
Yeah,
you a speeding ticket for speeding by my studio and not stopping in to say
there
hi.
you go. So you can have fun. And here's the thing to keep in mind when it comes to marketing, no matter what's going on in the world, is people want to smile. People, and don't make the mistake. We've said this before in other programs, but I think it bears repeating here. Don't make the mistake of trying to be corporate. Just because your prices may be higher than other photographers, or in our case, one of the highest in town, over decades, that does not mean that, well, then I have to be professional. I got to be Mr. Professional. Don't be unprofessional. Dress well, treat people well, speak well, and so do your job very well, but also have a personality, have fun, have a sense of humor, and let that come through in your marketing because remember, people don't buy from companies, they buy from humans.
Yep.
Especially when it comes to a product that is so emotionally grounded and so emotionally driven as photography, especially high-end portrait photography. That's great. Again, a reminder, if anyone's got any questions or comments for us, type them into the comments right now. We're going to be going for maybe just a few more minutes here because I want to give Tom an option to bring up anything that he might have wanted to bring up today if there was anything different than that. But I also want to mention what Scott also typed into the comments into the chat here. He said, I started with Photogenic Flashmaster and Studio Master. Because I have a ton of their reflectors, I still use modern Flashmaster and about 15 power lights. I love that, Scott. I mean, we were driven very much the same way. My father was always looking at how can I get the most longevity out of the equipment I already have, not just to save money, but because I know that equipment like the back of my hand. You get to know your lights. I mean, you get to know the ins and outs. Anything you don't know how to do, thankfully now you can go online and find things to help you, but you would pour through the manuals back, and figure out everything you can. Once you do that, the last thing you want to do is have to learn a whole new system. And I would say with lights, it's a little bit less tempting or it feels a little less necessary to constantly be upgrading than maybe with a camera or lenses that you feel are going to directly impact the quality of the photographs in some way. Light is light. If the lights work and send the light where it's supposed to go and you have the control over it and understand how to use it, there's no need to get the new light unless it has some feature that will bring you more peace, make you be able to concentrate more on the client than on the equipment, things like that. So that's great, Scott. We did the same thing. We used white lightnings for decades and decades. What about you, Tom? How loyal are you to your equipment or your
I
brands?
have a yard sale of stuff. Now, I don't mean I bought them at a yard sale, but I actually have two Flashmasters, the Power Pack. Uh, I have two of those, one of which I still use in part of my studio that has photogenic light heads. works great. And it's 100 seconds, 100 watt seconds, 400 watt seconds in my studio. F8, beautiful. Why goof with it? And I have Larson soft boxes and stuff that are adapted to go on them. So, as you say, the quality of light is the same. I color balance them with my Expo disc. And so everything white balanced is balanced to those particular lights. But I have several white lightnings. I have several alien bees, which I bought used, and I use it exterior. So if the wind blows it over and it breaks, it's like, oh well, I'll go grab another one on eBay because those things are
Yeah.
indestructible.
Yep.
And I also have, I'm trying to think Godox, um, some portable flashes, which are battery flashes, newer ones that I use for some location things. And those are great and very light, and they just fit a little light head on them. And they're not what I would use in my studio because the big ones work so well. And again, not one client in my 45 years has ever said, well, I don't know if I want to come to you. You're using photogenic lights. And the latest and greatest is the following. They don't care. They just are nervous and want to look good. So don't, and again, we've talked about this for years, especially for newer photographers, unless you got loads of money laying around, you don't know what to do with. Don't buy all the latest and greatest and newest. Wait, either if you need new, because you can't find used, wait a couple of years till it goes down in price, because it will. Or if you can find used, eBay and Amazon, particularly eBay, guarantees that it works. So if you can't get burned. If you buy a lens, if you buy lights or something, and it comes and it doesn't work, send it back. eBay will cover it. And so it's a different world in that regard. And I can't tell you the thousands of dollars I've saved by buying slightly used stuff that was still good condition, still had tons of actuations left in the body or lens, and the light still worked great. So, yeah, don't go in debt, especially when you're starting. Just because you think, oh, everybody else has got this stuff, I got to get it too. The client doesn't matter. It's how you use it that matters.
Yeah, and the client has no idea. They have no idea whether the camera, the lens, the lights that you're using are 2025 or 2015. They
Right.
don't know. They don't care. Make me look great. Create an image that is going to, be enjoyed by our family for decades to come. That's what it's all about.
Yep.
All right. So, anything else that you want to say, Tom, about the current economic ups and downs and how that's potentially going to be running through the minds of photographers, or anything else that you wanted to be sure to bring up and talk about today?
Well, I think next time, because this is is you touched on this briefly, is people investing in portraits for emotional reasons. If you've been a student of ours or anything, you've heard that for a long time. Now more than ever, that is, as I've gotten older and realized the value of family and the love you have for kids and grandkids, man, oh man, just so many photographers are not appealing to that in their marketing. They're just putting up a photograph. It's $9.95 this week only. So we could talk next time about that. As far as the current situation economically, it's a roller coaster ride. And if I could predict exactly, I would go buy or sell something, but I can't. I'm no economist. So the best I could say is stay true to your business system, your business plan that we've talked about all these years, and keep a cheerful, when your clients come in, smile, treat them the best you can treat them, give them a good experience. And eventually, however it works out, you'll still be one of the last ones standing. And I hate to say this negatively, that in a way, that's a good way, because over the years, as I've seen recessions come and go, I've seen businesses in my industry come in to my town or something like, we are going to take every client you've got, man, oh man. And then 2 years later, they're gone because they were so inexpensive or they didn't have a good business model. So you've got the business model if you have studied with us or have the questions you have answered. So don't ride the wave over the next several weeks or until we talk to you again. Just stay calm.
Stay calm. Right. That's right. Right. And trust in the system that you have put together, and it will take care of you. That's what it's designed to do. There's a reason why Charles Lewis Photography, has been in business, up until just recently, with my dad finally retiring from the teaching and the photography fully. We were in business for over 4 decades, almost 5. That's through a lot of recessions, a lot of ups and downs, and some years were better than others, but there, with the exception of the first couple of years that he was in business, I don't think there has been any year where we were like, oh, we're not going to make it. Oh, we're gonna have to close down. Oh, we got to tighten our belts. No. The system is in place to bring you the types of clients that are also going to be able to ride through what's going on right now and still be looking for what it is that you do. Shirley typed in and said, I currently use Nikon SB800s for my lighting. I'm looking at upgrading to Godox 8200 Pro because they are lightweight and more portable than the Alien Bs. What do you think? Well, I'm going to take that one first, Shirley, because you and I have been talking a little bit about this occasionally, because Shirley and I do some one-on-one coaching and consulting and so forth, and I get to speak with her monthly, and it's always wonderful. And so, Shirley, the first thing I will say is the reason you brought up of why you're looking at upgrading, is a very valid one. Uh, Making it easier, lighter weight, easier to carry around is always a good thing, especially if you're a one-person band. If you're if you're a photographer that's working strictly on your own, you don't have somebody that's helping you lug equipment and things like that. The lighter, more compact, easier setup, all of that things can be, especially when you're a photographer who works primarily on location. And I know that Shirley does, as did we, as does Tom. We work primarily on location, which means you're lugging gear around a lot. So I think that is a factor. That's one thing that with the White Lightnings, the Paul C. Buff White Lightnings, I don't even know if it's still Paul C. Buff today or not. I know White Lightning is still out there, I believe. But anyway, the White Lightnings that we used for years, they were heavy. I mean, they were big. They're about, this big, and they were pretty heavy, and we had a bunch of them. So, the thought of being able to get lighter lights that are easier to cut around, I think that's great. So for me, it comes down to, here's what it comes down to me. How badly do you need them to be easier to carry? And I also know a few things about Shirley, that the easier things are going to be carried and carted around and set up and torn down, the better. That's very important. But the most important thing to me is, if you do purchase these, will you still have discretionary money in your business to put into your marketing? Because that's the thing that is still the most important. I know Shirley knows that more than most people. Tom, what would you say to Shirley about upgrading to those 8200 Pros because of the lightness and ease of use?
Yeah, and I have one of those, and that's what I've been using for my location. The good thing about those versus, and I have the same Nikon flashes as well. I have one of those left over. One I finally burned out at a wedding, but years ago. But is that you can affix light modifiers that are a little larger and that will soften the light up more on the Godox as opposed to the Nikon. As far as I know, it's just more professional setup. You can put it on a light stand, easier. And and they are very powerful. And I used mine endlessly this last summer with high school seniors outside. They may or may they do have, but I never use it because it's not that powerful, a modeling lamp or a modeling light. So in my studio, I prefer having the larger Alien Bees, White Lightnings, and Photogenics, because the modeling lamp shows me exactly what the lighting pattern is going to be on the face and the ratios going on and everything, if I've got them aimed properly. Whereas the Nikon and the Godox, even though they have that modeling lamp in the Godox, I don't think it's as strong. It didn't seem to be, especially through a modifier. But if you're working, I don't think you have a studio. If you're working on location, those would be great. They got plenty of power. I think you'd be very happy with them. But as Todd said, don't go in debt for those, or maybe buy one and still use one of the Nikons for a while, and and then add on as your.
That's a great point, Tom. Maybe try one and see
Yeah.
how much you like it, and then is it worth it to get more of
Yeah.
those? That's great. So yeah, great question, Shirley. Thank you for asking that. And Scott typed in and said a Sam's Club camera and a mope can confuse the average customer. It sure can. It sure can. And that's why we never want to be we want to be in a level where there's no confusion of what it is we're doing, and where the clients don't even have to be worried about what equipment we're using. They don't care. They trust that I think they'd be surprised if we pulled out our iPhone and started taking the photograph with the iPhone. But I would argue, if you're a good photographer, you could probably create a beautiful portrait with an iPhone.
Or
Yeah.
if you hollow out the stick that has the little metal tray on it that has flash powder in it, and you say, look, and you
Poof.
say, look at the birdie, and it goes poof, and then your hair is all burned off. That
You
I
know
would
what
appreciate.
though?
I
I
don't care
think
what
I
kind.
think somebody that did that could actually sell
Yeah,
themselves. You know,
just
I don't know.
don't
Yeah.
buy that used.
As long as you don't have to have the rods move. You remember the
Yeah,
long exposure? Yeah, that would be
yeah.
weird. Scott also said Buff passed away a few years ago. Okay, okay, but the company is going pretty strong. They're in Nashville, Tennessee, so that's good to hear. That's good to hear. Legacy living on, man. We sure pounded those white lightnings, man. We took them to seminars all across the country. They survived. They survived the gorilla with the suitcases. It's
Yeah.
like, yeah, it's crazy. All right, well, with that, we're just about time to wrap up here anyway. So, Tom, I just want to turn it over to you to kind of any last minute thoughts that you have or anything like that before we wrap up today.
Yeah, thanks. Well, this is fun. It's a little different format, and we're on YouTube, but we're hoping to have you, anyone listening, to maybe refer other people and say, "Hey, check this out. They're still going. It's a freebie." You're just really we're on here because we love the industry and we've done it so long. We just couldn't stop talking about it and trying to help people achieve the success that Chuck had over his nearly 5 decades, and that I'm still having. And I'm in my 45th year, and hopefully keep going at least to that 5 decade mark because Mark, because I like it. It's fun. And so hopefully you'll come back and you'll get notified. But hopefully you can spread the word and say, hey, check this out. And it's a format that anyone can jump on, even if a newbie wants to start learning stuff. It's a good place to ask questions. So I'm glad the people that did show up today live are here. Nice to see you, and hopefully we'll see you again soon.
Yeah, for sure, and I want to second that as well. I mean, full disclosure here. I mean, when my dad, finally decided it's time, to retire and just do some other things, and as much as he loves doing this and so forth, the discussion was there. Hey, do we, what do we could retire from doing this as well? Both Tom and I have other things that are going on. As well, so we don't need the income from it, but we believe so much in what we're teaching, in what is here, that both Tom and I said, we'd like this to live on, and we would like photographers to be able to have access to it without having to spend money, or at least not spend a lot of money. But in the case of YouTube here, they don't have to spend anything. So we're trying to continue some of what we did really well, and I'm so proud of, with the Photographers Online Vault. And continue that in a format that can reach even more photographers, where they don't feel like they've got to spend money. They can put that money into their marketing. But if you liked this, please hit the like button. That makes a massive difference to more photographers finding out about these. That's the biggest challenge here, is no matter what we do, it is up to the YouTube gods, the YouTube algorithm, to get this out to people. And you can help. That's the way you can help. By us doing this stuff for free for you, just hit the like button, and that way more photographers can see it, because that is Tom's and my goal. It always has been. It's been my dad's goal as well, is to have as many photographers as possible worldwide be able to have access to these tips and techniques and secrets that we have used to be as profitable as we have been, as Tom continues to be in his active photographic business. Doing what we absolutely love. So with that, Shirley says, thanks so much for your time and advice. You're very welcome, Shirley. And Shirley asks, is the vault still available? Well, Shirley, so here's the thing. Yes and no. As of right now, if you were a current member when we closed down the online vault, you still have access to it right now with your current username and password. But only you do. And it's only going to be for about the next 3 or 4 months. So all of the stuff on the online vault is still accessible to you. If you don't remember your username and password for some reason, send me an email at lewis.innercircle@cjlewis.com. And I can get that to you. But yes, that is still available for those who were paying members when we decided to close it down. That's kind of our gift back to you to be able to continue utilizing it for a while. But the other thing is, for anyone who has not been a member, most of the very best videos that we've had on the online vault over the last 2 years or so are now available on this YouTube channel. So when you're done here, go take a look at those videos. They are the exact same videos that we have had on the online vault. We just took them and added them over here so that people could have access to those for free if they have not been a member and are getting access to the vault for free for a little while longer. Shirley says that's great. Thanks. You're very welcome, Shirley. And thank you, everyone, for joining us today. We will catch you again soon. Our plan tentatively is we're going to do one of these maybe every, I don't know, few weeks, at least once a month, something like that. But we may do them more often. If enough people are getting value out of these, if we're getting enough, we want to get the conversations going as well in the chat, just like we did today, then we'll maybe do these more often. But I had a great time. Thanks for doing this, Tom.
Yeah, this is great. I'm glad to see you again, my friend, and to see the people that showed up here, and hopefully we'll get this thing to grow.
You bet. Absolutely. It is our pleasure to be here. And until next time, everybody, continue snapping that shutter. Keep doing what you love and keep making a great living while you're doing it. And we'll catch you on the next one. Bye, everyone.
Bye.
Okay. I believe we are out.
All right. Hey, that was fun.